happens early. Because by the time we do the normal show, because since we're now live and up to the minute on this show that we don't know what it's called yet, because we might name it. So it's still called Unnamed Weather Show.
The Unnamed Weather Show.
Number 2, since this is the second one. So Matt is busy doing something, and I'm busy doing something, doing this show, trying to keep it together before I start going off on a rant. So, but
why do you need to rant now?
Well, we're going to rant about what I talked about before we started. Since we're now recording this part, we're going to start. We might have to rant, but we're going to first talk about the weather, because this is a weather show, not a rant show, which might be taken after this. Because I'll make it weather related somehow. Anyhow, the first thing that, because we typically talk about the weather that's going on right now, currently across the area. It's sunny, the end. And it's nice. It's not overly hot. It's not overly humid. It's summer. I
would call it perfect writing weather for me.
Yes, because Matthew, in this case, was out in the Quad Cities tearing it up with his motorcycle today.
Which is finally now actually home.
Yeah, so he
actually hauled it home today, and that was quite an eventful adventure.
Yeah, so you rode on the interstate.
Yes, briefly.
Uh-oh. He was terrorizing the semis.
Actually, quite the opposite. I was terrified by the semis.
Well, I was terrified by crazy people, because it just so happens today, while Matthew was running around the Quad Cities, I was running around the Quad Cities also today. And then I'm going to get to that rant later about today's drive down there. But typically, when I talk about the weather, yesterday, here's the first rant, and this may lead to another rant. So then I might forget about the trip to the Quad Cities, but then remind me. Okay, so this might go a while. So last night, this would be Friday, because we're doing this on is today? Saturday, June 18th. So on Friday, right, the 17th. I'm like blah blah doing my computer. I'm like on my computer, not thinking of anything, because we thought about doing a show, but Matt was out gallivanting, so I was like, we'll just do it tomorrow because I don't care. So I'm like doing stuff, la la la. I then bring up my radar. There's a bunch of severe thunderstorms all over the place. I'm like, okay, I didn't predict that, because I can look at my book here that I can show, because I might put it up. So let me put up my thing. So here, and you can see, yeah, my writing is crap, but see, I have this forecast here. So this is what I have. This is what I had in Northwest Iowa Friday night. I had clear to partly cloudy and lows around 70. Okay? Clear to partly cloudy, lows around 70. Okay?
Sounds fair.
So, did that happen? No. And I'm going to bring it up, if I can bring it up. Come on, bring it up. This stupid thing is going to be a bitch. But let's just say that, what is happening now? Oh, wait, Kaspersky. Kaspersky's making me mad today.
Is Windows 10 updating again?
No. Well, I'm not going to get into that, because let's just say I turned Windows Update off months ago, which is not a good thing, but it's either that or have Windows 10 onto a computer that can barely run Windows 8.1.
Nice.
So, and if Microsoft continues to bitch, I'm not going to be buying a Windows-based computer anymore. Anyway, so
I'm a very big fan of that decision.
Anyway, let me. Okay. So this, as I do this. So we have this. This was last night at 7, which is Friday the 17th. This was at 7:40 p.m. You can see there's a few severe thunderstorms down over here. Now there had already been a warning in Iowa from the outflow boundary kind of sweeping in ahead of these storms. So there was a warning before this in Iowa, and there was no rain, which already made me angry at the beginning. So we get to an hour later.
Wow, that is a jump.
So we have this humongous severe thunderstorm warning, not the one that goes from Spencer, Sibley, Primgar, that one. So Primgar is in O'Brien County. Let's look at O'Brien County. There's no rain there. None.
Heck, the sun's probably out still at that point.
No, there were some showers but the showers had dissipated.
Oh, okay.
All that was wind and no rain. And it was annoying. And so you had this, let me go to this. You had this line that was severe, which is this warning. You had this line of storms that was actually producing this warning. And then there had been storms in between that died. I was like, argh. And this warning, this one down here, they had hail up to the size of ping pong balls.
Yikes.
And I think this is the storm right here that went on to produce more excitement later. Yeah, this is the same storm here. This one went on to produce supposedly hail up to golf balls. And this complex, in fact, this storm you see right here near Lamar's got down to about right here and stalled for an hour and dissipated. It rained itself out. It never rained in like Denison. It never got there. Now this rain went into Nebraska and it rained in Lincoln and west of Omaha. And then this rain up here kind of just dissolved and rained itself out and died. And I predicted clear to partly cloudy, low 70. It was still raining at midnight, and this was at 10 o'clock. That really grinded my gears. I'll use Peter Griffin's phrase from Family Guy. It grinds my gears that summertime convection can be so hard to forecast because one little turn of a thunderstorm complex can change a whole forecast from nice and sunny to stormy. It just makes me mad.
Like James Spann says, it's enough to bring any weatherman to their knees, or woman.
What's worse is not only was it raining, there was severe weather, which made it even worse because that wasn't even predicted at all until right before it started. And you can't. And then this brings up another rant, which is connected. That how can you say that the temperature is going to be 20 degrees warmer in 40 years if we can't even predict if it's going to rain or not in 6 hours, which is this case in the summer? You can't predict that. Summertime weather forecasting is horrible because you don't know if it'll rain, where it's going to rain, if it's going to be severe. Until it started, and by then Joe Blow has already gotten a tree into his house, and you didn't tell him. We haven't learned anything evidently with summertime stuff. But oh heck, we know we can get tornado warning times down to an hour, just in time for the people to get in their cars. Now here I'm going off again. So it's a time for people not to go to shelter in an hour's time, for them to get in their vehicles and go out into the country to take pictures and videos so they can end up on TV.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, though, with the hour-long tornado warnings. I'm sorry, but if I have an hour and it's a particularly dangerous tornado, EF4, EF5, and I can see the relative path, and I'm assuming it's at my house. And where I'm located at, it's pretty easy for me to get into a main highway. that would not be plugged up. It takes me 3 minutes to get to the intersection of Highway 13 and Highway 151, which is a pretty major intersection here in our little area where
Yeah.
we're centered around. So that means I have a 4-lane highway traveling at 65 miles per hour, either going north-south or east. Because west goes back into town, you ultimately wind up in downtown Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
But you can go west, you can go north, you can go south. So you have 3 escape routes. All are high speed, relatively clear. Most times, heck, I've never been in much of a traffic jam at all on Highway 151. It
Yeah,
runs
well,
pretty well.
unless it's rush hour, then it tends to be a little crowded.
But it still moves. It's not
But
a parking lot,
it
is what I'm
moves
trying to get at.
maybe at about 5 miles under the speed limit at rush hour, but that's usually, especially if you've been clogged up behind at a red light.
Right.
At the red light, then it's clogged for a while until it kind of starts to spread out.
Right. But with that known, I think I would get into a vehicle if I know that I have a reasonable chance of my home being destroyed and my family's lives becoming at risk. Yeah. If I know I have that lead time, I can see it, either via radar or by TV, storm reports, things of that nature. If I can pinpoint it and I can see kind of where it's going, and I determine that it's 56 minutes from my house and no signs of weakening or disorganizing, yeah, I think I might hit the road, but only in that situation.
And here's the funny thing is that's probably not what you should do, but then I'm being hypocritical because I did this once. I actually, when I lived in Cedar Rapids, there was a tornado and they had said it was fairly big. It wasn't going to hit me where I was, so I did the typical Wichita Falls 79 thing where people got in their cars and they were safe where they were, got in their cars and got killed in their
Right.
cars. So I call that the typical Wichita Falls type stuff.
Right.
I got
What
in
I'm
my car
basing
at the time and drove to my parents' house. I actually drove into the path of an EF3.
Oh, okay. I know
Now,
what
was
tornado
the
you're talking about.
EF3 like right behind me? No. It was, from what I gather, from where I was, maybe 5-6 miles away. And I was able to get east away from it.
Now, to me,
I couldn't see it. All I saw was the blackness. And I'm like, yep, not going there.
Not to me, in terms of escape and evade, that's too close. I was
Actually, no, it wasn't 5-6 miles when I left. It was 5 to 6 miles when I was crossing what would have been the path. And I was driving at the time.
Okay.
So and this would be, for those that would remember, this was back in 04. I think it was 04, 03. It was the Palo tornado.
Mm-hmm.
One that hit the south side of Palo, south of the nuclear power plant. And that was, and I think it was an F3, but it was EF3, F3, whatever. But I crossed that path, or what would have been the path. The path didn't get as far as 380 because I was on 380 at the time.
Oh, okay.
And now the dogs are all flying and barking and doing whatever out.
Yes. I wanted to explain, though, my reasoning. And now, granted, my thought process has nothing to do with storm chasing, because storm chasing is inherently completely different. You're driving towards, you have a purpose, well, at least I do. I have a purpose of observing and reporting. The tactics are completely different. The task is completely different. In storm chasing, you are trying to get as close as you can, as safe as you can. With evading a tornado, it's the exact opposite. You are trying to escape as fast as you can or leave the path. Now, the reason why I would choose to get in a car and leave in that certain situation, like a Wichita Falls, where there's a violent tornado bearing down on you, not immediately, but it's 30 minutes or more out, and you know you can get away from it. I would leave because I think it would be a lot easier to get mobile before the damage is done than after, simply because after the damage is done, everybody's going to be flooding the area. You know, emergency response vehicles are going to start showing up. Gawkers,
Looters,
the rubberneckers, they're going to start showing up. You know, the people that just want to sightsee the roads in town, which is where I'm at. I'm right in the middle of downtown Marion. All the roads would be clogged up with traffic.
given the fact that it's clogged anyway. So that's beside the point.
But if you can get mobile before any of that really happens, then you stand a lot better chance of getting injured after the fact while you're in the tornado debris field, because you also have blocked roads because of debris and trees and all that fun.
Yeah.
So and again, I stress, it's only in that situation. It's that situation alone where you have tons and tons and tons of lead time, up to an hour.
And you're
you know that it's coming. You have plenty of notice, and it's a violent tornado that has shown a history of not deviating from its course, and does not show any propensity of disorganizing or weakening anytime in the near future. So, April 27th-esque storm is what I'm talking about, which is extremely rare. Which means I may never in this location have to take that course of action. But if that were the case, I would leave, just because I like to be moving. I like to be able to get up and move and be mobile, because then I can get my family to an emergency shelter. I can get my family to my in-laws' house out by the Mississippi River. I can get them there. You know, I can get us away from the situation so we are not either in the way or in harm's way. And we can still have a place to kind of hang our heads, or hang our hats, I should say, to be able to start the cleanup process. You know, we have a bed to sleep on. We have food to eat. We have air conditioning if it's really hot. Things of that nature.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, because this is what I really believe. It is only in that specific situation where you have that 60 minutes of lead time where I would make that decision, because any less,
and you run the risk that the storm could, and this
the storm could deviate, and
the
you
storm
could just happen to pick the wrong direction.
Slow down, because that's what's really bad is, and we're gonna fly off of this because this is something that I've seen, that typically when storms change speed, either speed up or slow down, that's when stuff typically is about to happen.
Correct.
Especially if they slow down and start turning to the right, that's when they're probably going to start producing tornadoes. And even if they speed up and turn left, or to speed up or turn right, or speed up or do anything, the change of speed, depending on, for example, I saw examples. This was back a few months ago. There were storms, not here. Well, technically here, but whatever. But anyway, storms were all moving at like 40 miles per hour, except one was moving 25. Guess which one was producing the tornado?
The 25 mile an hour one.
The 25 mile an hour one, because it was slower. than the rest of the storm, than the rest of the flow, because for some reason it was going slower.
It had a tornado on the ground.
But then it sped up, and the tornado was still there because it had already formed. And some cases, storms that go slower, or some cases storms that are maybe faster than others. Faster would tend to mean you'll end up more of a straight line wind type event and not a tornado, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to always be thinking of that a storm, if they say a tornado is moving at 30, don't use 30 as your guess. Go as far out, say 40. Give yourself time. Because if you know when it gets to your house at X, don't wait till X to do something. Because there's too many people that see it'll be in blah blah town at 5 o'clock, and they wait till 5 o'clock to do something. No, 5 o'clock is when you're supposed to be in your basement shelter area or out of there. Don't wait till 5 o'clock. And I think that is where the problem is, where people start talking about, well, it's going to be in so-and-so in 10 minutes. Well, that tells you it'll be there in 10 minutes, but don't wait for 10 minutes to do something.
Correct. I call that, when I'm kind of thinking in my own head, I call that time, the title that I have that time in my head is called the polar moment. Now, that's a bit of a racing term, usually in sports cars, not really drag racing, but in sports cars. The polar moment is basically, in racing terms, is basically when a car, or how quickly a car reacts to input. A very low polar moment in a car means you move the wheel and it instantaneously reacts. A high polar moment means it reacts a little bit slower, and you can feel it. You may not be able to set a timer to it, but you can feel it. Now, the way I correlate that to this situation, that time, that X, as you call it, that is the very moment when the weather will arrive.
It's supposed
the threat will arrive. The condition will
indicate.
Change direction in the worst. So that polar moment is the no BS time.
Yeah.
If you're doing something at that no BS time, at that polar moment time, you're wrong and you're late.
In
other words, think of it like this. You should be done with your safety plan by that time. You should be in your shelter. You should have everything you need. You should have everybody that needs to be in the shelter, whether it's children, spouses, pets, whatever you need. Gathering your documents, gathering your phone, picking up your emergency kit, putting your hard-soled shoes on, putting your bike helmets on. That should be completed no later than that polar moment time, 5 o'clock, 7:30, whatever it is. It should be done no later than. And that's what I mean by polar moment, is that's the cutoff. That's when the weather conditions at your location will change from whatever it was before to what they're warning for.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense probably to much anybody else, but it does to me, because it's all about that moment of change. In a car, it's change of direction. In weather, it's changing condition.
Yeah. So we went off on a tangent there.
Completely. But that's okay, because
it was weather.
Always good.
But it just, what were we describing? Severe weather, so-and-so.
Severe weather, Northwest Iowa.
And then we went off, and then stuff like that. Yeah, this is what happens. We go off and we start talking about warnings and X time and whatnot, and you were going to take and run for the hills. And then I'm like, where did we start with this? Oh, that's right. Severe weather in Northwest Iowa yesterday. I'm going to forget about the Quad City stuff today, but which we may go into then or later. But and then earlier this week, or earlier this past week, it was horribly hot in Western Iowa. I think it was this past week. All I remember is it was warm here for a few days and then it cooled off.
It was very warm.
Yeah, it was typical summertime heat wave. Although this is pretty tepid compared to what it could be. I mean, 2012 was not fun. So, because nothing screams fun like seeing temperatures at 105.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Unless it's not. Phoenix. Phoenix would take 105 given what they're going to be going through the next 10 days.
But 105 feels completely different in Phoenix than it does here.
Well, they're going to be feeling like it's 105 there because they're going to be at about 118 instead. Even with the heat index, they'll probably have a heat index close to 100, if not a little bit warmer. And for Phoenix standards, that is pretty bad. That's why I've been seeing excessive heat warnings down there. And I'm thinking excessive heat warnings in the Southwest, then it must really be bad.
Yes.
That would be like, and then this, I saw this because I'm going to go off. And then we'll get to the Quad Cities stuff that I'm going to complain about. I think it was a few days ago, Memphis had a heat index of 119.
Wow.
They were only under a heat advisory because they're like 119 heat index advisory, and the dogs agree. But 119 heat index here would be excessive heat warning because the South has hot, humid weather, and we not as much. We have humid weather, but we don't have real hot weather. Because the temperature was 95 with a dew point of 81. We get dew points in the 80s here, especially in July when the corn is grown up and it starts to give out the evaporation of water, the transpiration. Yeah, transpiration. And that's when we start getting dew points here in the 70s and near low 80s. And then and for people who thought that if you were up here in Iowa about a week ago, last week, and the week before that, if you thought that was bad, oh, you haven't seen anything yet. July is going to be much worse. I'm sorry. I think by state fair time, it might be a little bit better because that's when the transpiration tends to start to dissipate a little bit because the corn is matured, and then it'll start turning brown just past Labor Day. So, because transpiration only lasts, say, mid-June, which is now, through maybe the end of July?
Maybe. It all depends on when corn was planted.
And corn planting this year was, depending on where you were, about near normal time. About May.
Oh, yeah, about that. So this year, that's pretty much right.
Yeah, so
now till about mid to late July, about a month.
Because when I talked about last week about the 1995 summer where it was horribly humid, and even the 99 summer, there was dew points that summer that we had over 80, at least a couple times in July. And I've noticed one thing too, and this is somewhat weather related. The lightning bugs have returned.
Yes.
I saw the first ones about a week ago, and I'm thinking, the 4th of July is coming when the lightning bugs appear. We only see the lightning bugs for about 6 weeks, and then they disappear.
Yep.
And it's typically mid-June to mid-July, and that's now. So if we wait long enough, because it's 7:30, although the sun doesn't set for another hour and a half, it is a little bit cloudy-ish. It's starting to get a little bit cloudy because I'm noticing it's getting dark in my apartment at 7:30.
I have some very beautiful cirrus clouds coming up over me. I'm going to turn my video on. I want you to see this. This is actually really cool. Look at that.
Yep, that's the
that
lovely
is really
clouds.
Cool. That is really cool, I think.
Yep, Bob Ross is at it again.
Yep, you got it.
I call it when it's really good outside, I call it Bob Ross weather. Sunsets, because I can bring up pictures that I took. This was from over the years that I took of sunsets. Let me make sure I can get to them.
Oh, here's another one. While you're doing that. Oh, come on. Where'd my video go?
Yeah. Well, your video was up and then it went away.
There it goes.
Yes.
Look at that right up there. Right about,
Yeah.
Where's my finger? Right in there.
Yeah.
That looks like a gravity wave to me. Or
Yeah,
gravity
but
waves.
not. It's probably they're cloud streets. I know it. I've seen the term cloud streets. Something.
Oh, that. I didn't think of that. Yes, that seems more descriptive.
Yeah, cloud
Than
street.
gravity waves.
I've seen the term used for. It's like cloud streets. It's like, okay, that's weird. But anyway, now let me look at my, come on, sunset pictures. Where are my sunset pictures? Wait a minute. They might be here.
Is it me, or while you're looking that up and we're talking about sunsets, is it me, or when it's really, really hot and humid here, it seems like we have the best sunsets?
Because the humidity is, it's, oh, I don't want Paint Shop Proto. Why is it opening that? Good grief. Well, because with the humidity, the air has moisture in it, so it tends to have better, in some cases, some decent sunsets, especially if there's a lot of haze around.
That makes sense.
Whether I said it right or not, it's another story. But come on, go away. Come on. Stop opening up my Paint Shop Pro. Good grief. You didn't open it before.
So you're saying that because of the extra stuff in the atmosphere from the humidity.
Yeah, water droplets and whatnot, the moisture, I would take the assumption, because if it's dry, I mean, you could have dust, which could change it. So I don't think there's much of a difference. I think that there's better sunsets any time of the year, because in the wintertime, you'll get ice crystals that really refract the light really decently.
That is true. That's probably the best time for sunsets around here is wintertime.
Because, for example, I can have this sunsets with clouds, aka dust particles, water droplets, etc. I could have ones like that. I can have one like this. This was cirrus clouds this one time, so I don't know if you can see this one or not.
Yep.
That one was a decent one. That's not a sunset, but
that's drone footage.
What?
Is that from Mr. Gottschalk?
What, that?
Yes.
That's a picture I took from right next to Bright Box at Balltown.
Oh, nice.
And the Mississippi River is right here.
Very cool.
And it was not a good day. That was 2 falls ago when I went on a fall leaf thing. And I didn't realize that you could see really well from right next to Bright Box at Balltown. So I could look for other sunsets while I'm not looking. Oh, why did it pillows? Jeez. But I mean, and those sunset pictures, and I'm gonna look it up so you don't have to. I did the reading rainbow. You did it. You didn't have to. So no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. No. Oh yeah. Now I wish I knew when this was. Okay. Tell me when you were done. Hello. Wake up. Because I think I had. Okay. That tells me when that was. Okay. Okay, so this, and I'm going to screen share this one. That, come on. For example, this was a sunset in December. So
Oh, wow.
you think, and there it is again. You think that's good?
That is good.
What about that one?
That's better.
Guess what? That was the next day.
Really?
Those two sunsets were back to back. One was December 8th, and the other was, this one is December 9th.
Wow.
So, and what do you see? Clouds, ice crystals, because there was cold weather. Because it was, I think we had snow on the ground. These poor apples that were right here, they stayed there for the entire winter. The birds had food to eat for the winter, so
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, you can have decent sunsets all year long. Haze, volcanic ash from far away, etc., etc.
Smoke.
Smoke from fires, because during the Fort McMurray fires, we had decent sunsets from all that smoke.
Yeah, I remember those sunsets fairly well.
Yeah.
The best sunset I've ever seen around here was after a severe thunderstorm event. It was either last year or 2 years ago, where it knocked out power to most of the town of Anamosa.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell?
Was that a few years ago? Was that in June? Was the June 2014 event that I mentioned?
Yeah, it was either 14 or 15.
On Polygon for back for like forever.
And I remember that sunset being really vivid because somehow, like, the storm had been long gone, had been gone for hours, but yet the mammatus clouds remained from that storm, and they just parked themselves over eastern Iowa, and the sun got below them, and it just lit everything up, and it was probably the most beautiful sunset I'd ever seen, because at that very moment when the sun got to a level beneath the clouds where it started lighting up the bottom end of the clouds, I was driving from Anamosa back home, and I was going through the hills and stuff right as you're going to Scooter's Bar by the Wapsie River.
Yeah.
I was going through that, and that was just absolutely amazing. The only thing that would have made that better is if I were on a motorcycle, but that's just me.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the June 30th, 2014 event. That was another event, because I remember June 30th more vividly because we never had a sunset because we had multiple severe storms that day that just kept going on and on and on forever. But I remember an event after that did the same thing, but it wasn't as bad as the 2014 event. There's nothing could compare to 2014. Anything worse than the 2014 event here would have to be a tornado, because it was the closest thing to a tornado that really wasn't, but should have probably been, because there was funnel clouds. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole nother. Everybody in Anamosa thinks it was a tornado, and the Weather Service thinks it's not. So we're not going to go into that because I could rant about that for an hour. Oh, and by the way, the other day, a couple days ago, we did have a tornado near Urbana. Another
was it confirmed or not?
Yeah, the Weather Service did confirm that there was a brief tornado near northwest of Urbana the other day.
Oh, I remember seeing those pictures.
The funnel cloud that was kind of right along the kind of a horizontal tornado.
It was spookily close to the ground, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's not."
It did touch the ground briefly. So. Yeah.
Everybody was saying, no, it's not going to touch the ground. There's zero chance of them touching the ground. Everybody's.
But then they say, they don't say zero. They say they likely won't, but if they get close to the ground, to take your tornado precautions anyway. Because they're likely, but the thing was, and that was, okay, and we're going to have to go back into this too. That was the day with storms. This was what, Monday? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Monday, storms. So it was like a big day. We were going to have severe weather. It was kind of
yeah.
Nothing real too exciting. Anyway,
It's kind of the event that wasn't.
Yeah, well, if enhanced risk, it probably shouldn't have been. Anyway, so we had storms, and I kept seeing rotation on a few of them, and other people were looking at it. So I was not even looking at the storm. So I'm seeing severe thunderstorm warnings, a few here and there, and then I see a picture come on my Twitter feed of a funnel cloud, a very good-looking funnel cloud. It's not a thin little needle point. It was a fairly good. I'll call it. Some people probably think kind of dirty, a thick funnel cloud, no thin little thing. So it was pretty good, almost like a cone, but it wasn't to the ground. But it was kind of angling off horizontally. And It was taken by the Marion softball team on their way to a game in Vinton. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. Then, and I remember posting this, I said, it showed, the Weather Service did a special weather statement. Special weather statement said as follows: funnel clouds are reported near Urbana, moving northeast at 25. I thought, that sounds like that should be a tornado warning, and it wasn't even any warning. Like funnel clouds near Urbana, moving northeast. Okay. I had never seen that in a special weather statement, that they all of a sudden are just saying funnels reported, moving northeast. Okay. Huh? What? I don't know. Now, this brings up a thing with Dan and Kelly. You mentioned Dan earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They were on a storm near Cascade, which was rotating. Lots. It was really good. It had TVSs on it several times. They saw what could have been a brief tornado. It lasted 5 seconds and went away. Weather Service never confirmed it because they never could get video of it, but they saw it. And that's similar to what happened out here a few weeks ago, east of Anamosa, where the barn got unroofed and debris went flying everywhere. They were there. They saw the rotation on the ground, so they assumed it was a tornado. The Weather Service, no. And the roof is still missing. The power poles, it knocked down 4 of them, and they've all been replaced. So I don't know.
I wonder if NWS sent out damage survey teams.
I don't think they did. Now, they did confirm the one the other day in Urbana, and that is going to be recorded as an AF0. But when you think about it, the state of Iowa, if nothing changes, we're going to end up with a record low of tornadoes this year.
Yep.
And it's not a drought year. It's because, well, except southern Iowa is getting desperate for rain. But it just seems very odd that we could end up with fewer tornadoes than we had in 2012, which was a drought year. And this year, we've had decent rains, except for southern Iowa, because I had on that Monday, I think it was Monday. No, Wednesday. We had a day where it rained a lot. It wasn't Monday. It was Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday.
That sounds about right.
Where we had a rainstorm come through here in the afternoon, dumped a half an inch of rain in like 15 minutes, and then it went away.
Yep.
And then the next storm came in that night, and I had to drive in it. We had severe thunderstorm warnings. So I think it was Wednesday. I don't remember. I had to do work that day. So it was because I had to go to my mom's house because I was going to put a dresser into my sister's car because she was going to come home from work, because my sister stays at my mom's house when she's at work, when she's working her shift schedule. And then back to her house. I won't go into it. It's a long story, not meant for weather. Anyway, so storms are coming. Boom, rain. It rains a lot. I had to drive out in the rain to my mom's house. I know it's in town. I could barely see where I was going. In town, it was raining hard. I get there, and of course we can't get the dresser in the car, so the dresser's still at my mom's house. I come home, and it stopped raining. It poured, thunder, lightning, blah, blah, blah. I got home, and I emptied my rain gauge that night at midnight when I went and, because it had stopped raining. And I kept a half an inch in there, just a little over half an inch. I was just a hair under 3 inches.
Wow.
That was the most rain we'd had. Now you look outside today, it looks like we haven't had rain in 2 weeks. But because most of that rain just kind of ran off because it rained too hard.
Yep.
Not good. It's not helping anybody, except it made the rivers a little bit higher. Because I've noticed when I was driving around today, and we're going to get into the Quad City stuff now, when I drove around today, I drove past the Wapsipinicon River down by just north of Donahue.
Okay.
Calamus and Donahue by the Allen's Grove boat ramp.
Mm-hmm.
So you know about on County Road Y52. Anyway, the river's up. It's not flooding, but it's up. And most of the rivers, except for the Mississippi's like, but the rivers are decent.
I don't think the Mississippi is
Mississippi, I think, is at pretty much normal level.
But some of the, I was in a place in the Quad Cities today called Campbell's Island, which is literally right in the middle of the river, and the side of the river that was closest to where I was at was very high, not flood, but still very noticeably high. It was very dirty. It was very mucky. It was flowing very, very quickly. So it was really evident that there was a lot of rain runoff going on with this. And it was weird because I would come off of there, hang a left, drive 4 miles up to the Interstate 80 bridge, and the main channel of the river looked pretty normal.
Yeah.
Not too high, not too low, not running very fast, but that little spot, it would be the eastern edge of the Mississippi. I think that's a slough. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a slough.
I'd have to think.
Actually, let me Google map it.
Yeah, just do that. But then you'll probably get knocked off. Anyway, because I'll tell about this, because you were up there. Because isn't it Campbell's Island up north, just down the road from Port Byron? Just south of there? Okay.
Yes. It's right. It's literally right down the hill from
the one Little Mississippi, close to the Little Mississippi mini golf course. Just down from that.
Yep.
Okay, it's off 84.
Yep.
I've driven past there, but I didn't go down that part because you were on the eastern part of the Quad Cities. I was in the western part today.
Yep.
But,
actually, that's part of the channel of the river. I have it pulled up on Google Maps, and it's part of the river. It's not a slough or anything. It's just
a river that
the eastern part of the split because of the island.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and I think mainly because of the flood, the day we had all that rain. Dubuque had terrible flooding. What else is new? With Catfish Creek, which seems to flood a lot. And because Dubuque had flooding, then we get to Derek, who's the horticultural guy for the Weather Network. He lives in Cumming. He lives south of Des Moines. He's had 4/10 of an inch of rain this month. His grass is brown. He's had no rain. He's getting desperate for rain. Southern Iowa is heading into drought now because, and I noticed this when I drove down to Galesburg today. The further south, and this even though it's in western Illinois, the further south I got, it seemed like it got a lot drier real quick. The grass changed. Everything looked different. I crossed several creeks and the Edwards River in western Illinois, which I'm going to probably go off on a rant about that. And they seemed really somewhat low, given that they need rain, maybe at least an inch or two.
Yep.
But it just looked very odd that you can go, for example, southern Iowa's they need rain. Northwest Iowa, it seemed like for years and years and years, Northwest Iowa has been like, oh, no rain for us, too bad.
Now they're getting all the rain.
Now they're getting all the rain, and now they want it to quit, and it won't because it just keeps raining there.
Yep.
The only godsend that they should be happy about is that typically Northwest Iowa is typically in some cases in the summer some of the hottest temperatures there, because typically they've had no rain. Their dew points are typically low. The temperature shoots up, and it's typically 100.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's been so rainy this year, they're barely getting into the mid 90s, and yeah, they're having high heat indices. But then you look at southern Iowa, southwest Iowa, they've had a few places have hit 100 already.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not saying like 112 or 109 or something, like 100.
Or 101, something like that.
Maybe, but that's about it. And it's only like been a day or two. So, but I mean, the difference between here, because I had 3 inches of rain the other day. Cedar Rapids hasn't even had 2 inches this month.
That's correct.
It means the airport. Whereas I've had tons of rain, Cedar Rapids has even had very little. I mean, I don't have to drive very far south to see the grass turning, which is, I'm blessed that this grass, even though I live in an apartment building, that the grass is nice and green. I'm not worried about anything because, unfortunately, I had to mow the other day, and I might have to mow again because the person who's supposed to be mowing is now not around. Anyway, off topic, but that's another story. But when it's dry, it makes it easier to mow because I don't want to be mowing in muck.
Right.
And dirt, and it gets all mucky and slippery. But you don't want to be mowing when it's completely dry, because then the ground is hard as rock, and my mother's yard is not flat, so it tends to be bumpy, thanks to a ground squirrel, gophers, moles, etc.
Yep.
But anyway, so I went off topic about the thing. So then we get to this river business. Anyway, we crossed the Edwards River twice, on 74, and then when we came back, I didn't want to put up with construction on 74. So we took 150 back up.
Okay.
And we crossed the river, because you'd know where this is, because you've lived in Illinois.
Yep.
But we drove up there and we crossed the river, and my mother said, "Oh, there's creeks in Anamosa that look bigger than this river," meaning the Edwards River. And I was like, well, there's several drainage ditches near the Wapsipinicon River in Clinton County that are bigger than the Edwards River. I think some of the creeks further south of the Edwards River, closer to Galesburg, like Henderson Creek, I think it's Henderson Creek and Pope Creek, were probably bigger. But it's a river nonetheless. Not going to complain, but it just seems rather weird. And it looked low. And it was, I think, mainly channeled because it looked fairly straight. I think it's channeled because it tended probably in the past to be one that was flood prone, probably flash flood prone given where it is.
That used to be an irrigation, what do you call that? An irrigation
ditch. Yeah, probably, because it looks very similar to a lot of the irrigation or stuff that they have on the Wapsipinicon in Clinton County. All you got to do is go around Toronto, up past just south of Lost Nation, Toronto, and north of Calamus, and you'll see all these drainage ditches going everywhere. Then you'll know then you'll be like, oh, it's the Edwards River drainage ditches. I'm making fun of this poor river, so it's like, I'm sorry, I've complained about the Edwards River too much. Somebody's gonna say, well, why did you go to Galesburg, Illinois, to go to Kmart's closing sales? Because can't go to Kmart here, there aren't any.
Yep.
So if I go to closing sales, I got to go to Rock Island and Galesburg. Which brings up a point. This has nothing to do with weather. Galesburg's Kmart is in a mall.
Yep.
And you would know that.
Carl Sandburg Mall.
Yeah, a mall that's going to be dead soon. Anyway. But
it's been dying a slow death for a lot of years.
And it's going to be dying a bigger death soon. But anyway, it's kind of sad. It looks kind of bad. And this goes on, and we're going off topic. The person, because of the closing sales, they want to make sure you're not stealing stuff. I don't know why. You could do that at Kmart and nobody cared. But anyway, not that I did it, but no, I never did. But they would be like the thing would beep, and they'd be like, who cares? But this was a different Rock Island. It's like the normal people. In Galesburg, the person that checked our stuff was a cop. I'm thinking, and I noticed that after the fact. I'm like, that guy has handcuffs. What's that? It looked like a cop. I'm wondering, okay, Kmart needs security? Evidently. I'd never seen that before.
I've never seen that before. And I used to work at Kmart.
Don't forget the film. Blue Light Special. That should be the show title, Blue Light Special. I don't know. We'll get in trouble. Oh, good grief. But anyway. So
I actually thought about that when I sent you those other titles. I actually thought about something like that, like Blue Light Special.
Oh, good grief! But
or to play off the Leonard Skinner song, the Saturday Night Special.
Oh no! Wait a minute. Now you're going to make me think of something. Oh, now you're making me think of the Midnight Special TV show that used to exist way back when. Which was,
I remember that.
They have, it's because they only have infomercials about it now, or they used to. Anyway, we're off topic again, and then there was the construction. Okay, this is gonna drive me nuts because this was on 74 when I went down there. That they have construction, and the people were not there. And it's like, why is this lane closed when they had already finished it? It was already finished.
No, you're talking I-74 crossing the Mississippi, correct?
No, because that's not going to be done forever.
Right.
I'm talking about I-74 south of 80 in Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Going toward Galesburg.
Right.
This would be between the interchange with 80 and 280 and the first exit south of there, which is Highway 81.
Mm-hmm.
And there's construction, and the only construction workers were down by 81, but everything else was done. That irritated me but I'm like, and this is off topic, so sorry, people. And the first thing I said was, I'm surprised Illinois is doing road construction. I thought they were out of money because they have no budget. But that's politics, and we ain't doing politics on this show, except I just did. So then
that ain't politics. That's just cold hard truth.
Anyway, then it gets worse. It gets worse because the smell is awful. Because they were making, and of course it's smell. Black asphalt smells like Adventureland to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wet, whatever oil stuff. We talked about this last week. Anyway, we go down the road. The lane opens up. Yay! Right as the lane opens up, it says, "Right lane closed in a mile and a half." For the next, or left lane closed in a mile and a half for next construction. What? And then I'm like, I'm not speeding up to just slow down again. So I stay at the 55. Cars are getting mad, and then all of a sudden we have to slow down again. And I'm like, well, that's your fault. Then the road is closed for a bridge, and then it opens up again. Was anybody at this bridge? No. Were they doing any work? No. Did it look like they had done any work? No. So why is it closed?
It's probably a structural thing.
It was closed on the other side, too, on both sides of the interstate, at this creek. It was Pope Creek. So I'm thinking something had happened, but I don't know. It's a mess. So it drove me nuts. And for the fact that I got lost in Galesburg trying to find the Kmart, only to find out that I was close. So... I drove through Galesburg, Illinois. I had fun. Except I kind of knew where I was because I'd been in Galesburg before. Not enough, evidently. But then I never go down to Galesburg anyway. So there's no need for me to go to Galesburg.
I've been to Galesburg quite a few times.
Yeah, it's not fun. Except for getting on an Amtrak train.
True. That and the unit I was in was Alpha Battery, 2nd Battalion, 123rd Field Artillery. Bravo Battery, 2nd Battalion, 123rd Field Artillery is located in Galesburg. In fact, you probably drove by their armory.
I drove past something. I don't remember what I drove past.
A bunch
Where-
of military vehicles and stuff.
Well, where is it? In Galesburg. Well, that don't
Yeah,
help.
it's in Galesburg. Come on now. It's actually closer to Highway 34 than it is I-74. But if you wound up on Highway 34,
Well, you have to, because
probably
Highway
saw it.
34 is where the Kmart was. Well, off of it. This was my trip. Went on 30. I got off 74 at 34 on the bypass,
Mm-hmm.
and then took the first exit, which is Seminary Street. The Kmart's not on Seminary Street, of course, which I didn't know, because that's where Walmart and the Menards is. I drove down Seminary Street to downtown. Then I drove all the way down Main Street, I think it was, which is old 34, back to 34, and then took 34 back to the east to Henderson Street, which is Highway 150.
Yep.
And ended up like, oh, there's Kmart. And then I was like, oh, Kmart's in a mall, because I had never seen Kmart there. I was like, oh, this mall's seen better days. It's a dead mall. It's probably going to be on the Dead Mall's website that exists.
The Dead Malls?
Yeah, deadmalls.com.
I did not know that was
Yes.
a thing. That sounds interesting.
Yes, let's just say Westdale used to be on that list until they tore it down. So now it's still, but there's old malls that don't even exist on anymore. There's historical malls like the infamous mall in the movie The Blues Brothers. The
Really?
one where they crashed through the mall.
Yeah.
That is a mall that is famous, mainly because of that movie. It's also famous for having a lot of criminal activity in it after the fact, including some people that have been murdered in it. Is it there now? No. They have finally torn it down, thank God. They didn't tear it down until like a year or two ago. It's been abandoned for over 30 years.
Wow.
That tells you it's also in Harvey, Illinois, most corrupt suburb of Chicago.
Agreed.
They can't. We're going off on politics again, but let's just say it's corrupt. So anyway, back to weather. Weather, sun, storms, blah blah blah. So, but there's that thing. But anyway, we went there, and then we ate at Denny's and whatnot. But my mother and I. So, I mean, we had a nice time, and well, yeah, have a nice time to drive to Kmart. Oh yeah, I drove to Kmart. And I have to have something to drink because my throat's going crazy. So
I'm about the same way.
yeah. So we all have to drink. So it's just one of those days. And I kept smelling stuff. I kept smelling barbecue. Kept smelling like weird stuff. I don't know what it is because I kept smelling stuff. Tires or smoke or some such thing. I kept thinking the car was on fire. Oh, okay. And then I'm going to rant. Then coming back, this was like just right before I got home. A bug hit the car. The window was open. The splatter went on me. I was not happy. I don't want bug splatter on me. Who knows what kind of bug that was? It could have been a poisonous bug. And when I got home, I never even wiped my arm off. So it's probably still on me.
That's funny.
Well, it was to you because you weren't on it. But then, of course, on a bike, you're going to get splattered by who knows what.
I was hit in the face twice today by June bugs.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. That splattered on me. Well, sort of. But, I mean, that's annoying to all heck. But it's part of living in the Midwest, evidently, with having plants, crops, etc.
Yep.
So,
part of life.
So, yeah, looking at what's going to happen in the weather, it's going to be rainy, maybe early this next week. Maybe. I don't take my chances. Anytime they say it's going to rain, that probably means it's going to be sunny. And every time they say it's going to be sunny, it's going to rain. I don't take any chances anymore, it seems like. I could put isolated thunderstorms every day and probably be right. More often than not. especially in the South when it happens quite often, but here, not as much.
Just issue the James span forecast. Warm and muggy, with a
Might
slight
rain.
chance of afternoon isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms.
Yeah, and then somebody will say, I didn't get any. Well, you didn't, not everybody would. Then why did you put it on there? Because some people would. But I didn't. Well, then good for you. You didn't get wet. But I wanted rain. Well, too bad. I can't help you. Well, you're the weather person. Yeah, but I don't make the rain. You don't? Well, darn. And then
That's unfortunate.
the weatherman would say, so you'd think I was going to be making a bunch of tornadoes that killed hundreds of people? Hmm. Oh, I thought you did that too. Why would you
Oh
think that?
no.
Maybe I can get attention so I can be on TV screens and interrupt soap operas and Dancing with the Stars because my ego is more important than some show. Some such thing. I'm being facetious, but
You are being very facetious.
yeah, I'm being snarky. I'm kind of crazy. Anyway, so we're not sure what we're still going to call this or not. We've come up with a list, sort of, and then I came up with more on the way home, which probably makes no sense. So
Here's another idea. I think we may have already mentioned this already, but I don't know. Or I can't remember, rather. The weather blotter. Not weather blah. Weather blotter.
We'll have to think about that. I came up with this. This one's really weird because I don't know how I would do this. I came up with, the ones I came up with, which was like occlusion and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with this on the way back on Highway 150. I think it was near Orion at the time, driving back north past the TV towers.
Okay.
And I came up with atmospheric occlusion or atmospheric occlusional. To a certain extent, occlusion meaning a cold front and warm front, and the warm air is lifted. So it's almost like it can't decide what it wants to be. So it's like we can't decide what we want to talk about, something like that with occlusion. So it'd be like atmospheric occlusional or atmospheric occlusion or some such thing like that. So I thought of that and I'm thinking, well, how would I be able to do a logo for that? And I was like, if it's going to be too hard, then I'm not going to call it that. So I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I'm hoping we do more polygons, but getting guests on is going to be like a challenge. I'm like, I almost have to. It might end up coming to the point I might have to start driving to these places to get to people on.
Hey,
that's funny.
That's
Yes,
not a bad idea. I like road trips.
Yes, because I just have money just laying around that I can just drive clear across the country.
That's why they invented motorcycles. Motorcycles are very fuel efficient.
Well, yeah, I would have to take a motorcycle lessons because I don't have motorcycle training. So unless you're planning to go to like Los Angeles or say Miami or something to get guests.
I really don't want to sit on a bike in Los Angeles traffic because A, that will destroy my engine, and B,
But Los Angeles is only going to get up to 100 this week.
I don't even care about the heat.
Yeah.
My engine would not survive, even though it is water cooled. It does have a fan. It does have an electric water pump.
I'm not expecting you to be in LA traffic during rush hour, which I might add I have been in before.
In LA?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not fun.
I drove.
Let me guess, on the 405?
Meaning the San Diego Freeway? No.
Yeah.
This would be on the Long Beach Freeway.
Oh, that's
105 and 705. No, not PCH. That's Pacific Coast Highway. This is the one that goes south out of downtown LA that goes south to Long Beach. I was on that.
That's 705. That's 705. Yeah.
I was on that from downtown to Century Boulevard. and then Century West, which goes to the airport because our hotel was there. And we were up at the zoo at LA Zoo, and we took the interstate down around to there. From getting onto the interstate to getting off at Century took almost an hour. Normally, it would probably take upwards of maybe about 20 minutes. And it took us an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour and 5-10 minutes. I thought it'd be worse because the traffic was at least moving at about 15 miles an hour in some cases. The thing that really freaked me out was that a semi truck had blown a tire.
Yeah.
The thing was the semi truck driver didn't know it.
So
The
yuck.
tire was flapping everywhere, and the semi is like right next to me. I'm thinking, I don't like that. And I'm in a rental car, not happy. I was like, that drove me. And I saw it, and I was next to it or behind it or whatever for a good 3 miles.
Right.
Before I finally got off the interstate. That was horrible. I have seen the traffic on the 405 that you're talking about. When we were going up to Hollywood, we would take La Cienega, which goes right over the 405. It would be packed with cars, and I'm like, thank God we're not going that way. Because La Cienega takes you right to where we wanted to go from our hotel. Goes right to it. It's like, we don't even need the interstate. Like, we don't need roads. Well, I don't need interstates. In LA, you can pretty much get around, even on side streets, as long as you always keep the radio on, because if you don't, then you don't know when the car chases are starting.
True.
And this is, we're going off topic. The two things that I did not see when I was in LA, because I've been in LA twice, I did not see a car chase either on TV or in person, and I didn't feel an earthquake. I was very disappointed. I almost sent a letter to Mayor Villagrosa, who was the mayor at the time. Eric Garcetti is now the current mayor. But Villagrosa was the mayor at the time. I almost sent him a letter saying, I am very disappointed in your town. I saw no car chases, and I felt no earthquakes. You are a disappointment to your city. Blah. Or whatever. Not coming back until I see some action. That's called me being stupid, but me thinking, well, it happens in LA all the time.
Yep.
So, but I've been in LA twice. It was twice within a 7-month period, I might add.
Huh.
And I haven't been back since. But, and I loved the second time. This is weather related. I went in the winter. The first time was with my parents in September of 2009. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me think about this. Yeah. Because this was backstory. This is not weather related. We went in September of 2009. My parents and I went to LA.
Right.
We got back. A week later, my father broke his hip and ended up retiring from his job.
Yikes.
So I do remember that. So anyway, that was in 2009 because he broke his hip when we went to go look at a dog. The dog that is currently the dog that my mom has now. When it was a puppy. Because my parents bought a puppy. It cost as much as the hip replacement that my father had to have. Anyway, off topic. So we went 2009. And then I went again with my dad in February of 2010 to go to the NASCAR race at Auto Club Speedway. And I'll get off on that. Yeah, in Fontana. Let's just say we went to the race in 2010. It rained. It rained right before the race because it drizzled on us, thank goodness. And then if you watch it on YouTube, because it's probably on YouTube, you see this big, dark, black mass of ick just to the north of the racetrack. I saw it almost the whole race. It was shrouding the mountains because there was rain right on the bottom of the mountains in the foothills.
Yep.
And briefly, a little bit of that rain shower drifted over the racetrack, so they had a caution flag for rain. but it didn't last long because they didn't red flag race because it only drizzled, and it kind of was enough that they had to throw it under caution, but it went away. It stayed there the whole time. I thought it was going to downpour. I thought there was going to be lightning, which I never saw any. It was so bad. We ended up having to go to a California race, and it rained. Really? I'm like, come on. But the thing was, the next day, the Monday, my father and I went over to Venice Beach.
Okay.
I decided to walk into the Pacific Ocean. Well, the Pacific Ocean decided it didn't like me, and it decided to do a decent wave at me, and it got my pants wet. And it was not warm water, which, of course, the Pacific is not warm any time of the year in LA.
Nope.
Even in the summer, the water temperature's in the 60s, and this was not in summer. This was in February. Let's just say it's not nice. It was probably the water temperature was in the low to mid 50s.
Yep.
Not doing that again. So I would say one thing about LA. When I was there in September, the minute the sun went down, the temperature went down with it.
Yeah, it gets cold there.
Yeah, in the summer. I was there because this was, of course, in September. I was outside in the swimming pool on the hotel because our hotel, I'll say it is, it's the La Quinta Century. So the pool's outside. It's kind of outside, but it's not. It's like what would be at the third floor of the hotel.
Okay.
And you get lovely views of the planes landing on the North Runway complex of LAX. So I'm seeing all these planes. I saw Polish International Airlines. I saw British Airways. I saw like every international flight I've ever seen. I saw more international flights except until I went to O'Hare. But anyway. And I noticed that it got horrendously cold real fast. By 9 o'clock, it was too cold to be in the pool. I had to get out because it was too cold.
Wow.
And I noticed that immediately. And the interesting thing was the last day we were there, well, the last full day we were there, that Thursday, the temperature because that was when we went to Universal Studios. The temperature that day in Burbank was 101. And it was one of those really kind of dry days.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't, I could feel it, but it wasn't terribly bad. But that night it got cold again because, of course, we were down by the airport. So, of course, the marine layer, well, kind of like the marine breeze came in. So the temperature cooled off. And that's a climate I don't want to mess with. Southern California weather, I mean, you have the heat of the Inland Empire. You have the marine layer right by the coast. You have the mountains, which could be having frost well into summertime, except now because unfortunately they're even going to be warm. I saw forecast a few days ago for Big Bear, which is way up. That's the only place in Southern California gets snow consistently.
Yeah.
And they had forecasted temperatures in the 90s. That says something because Palm Springs is going to be at 120. So
yuck.
And LA is going to be at about 100. Down by the airport
is going to be just as bad.
So, I mean, I don't know. That just drives me nuts because there's too many microclimates. But then it brings up the point, there's not many people in TV weather in LA that probably know about microclimates that well. Because they're there for the personality, not the experience. There's a few, and I won't say that every one of them is a dunce, because there's several good ones there. It just feels like that there's too many that aren't there that are overpowering the ones that know what they're doing.
I think you're right.
That don't. And I'm sorry to say, because we mentioned this in a Polygon episode a few years ago, that there's too many, and this was with a guest that I'm not sure I should mention who it was because I don't remember who it was, that said, and I quote, well, it's not quite quote, it was that there's too many people that don't know what they're doing or don't know what they're saying. They're just there for a pretty face. And unfortunately, more and more big markets are going to the pretty face and not the scientist. And that's sad. That is. That people like, for example, Span are going to get replaced by some cheap 21, 22-year-old college graduate who may have some experience, but is cheaper to do because they want the cheaper labor. But then in hindsight, you can get somebody off the street, Joe Blow, to do the weather, and all you have to do is just look at a forecast and say it's going to be sunny and 75. Well, anybody can do that.
Yep.
And the sad thing is, TV companies are now learning that anybody can do it, but there's certain areas you couldn't pull that off in Oklahoma City. Because try to do severe weather coverage in Oklahoma City and people are watching you and you're like, sunny and 75. No, there's a tornado on the ground. Why aren't you covering it? Where's your team of forecasters? Where's your storm chasers? Where's your helicopter? We don't have that. Well, then nobody will watch you. So you might as well go back to your sunny and 75.
Yep.
Because nobody will care what you say because nobody will be watching. I had to go off on
Bingo.
So what was that? What was I discussing? Oh yeah, road construction and caregivers. I think I started on that and it went off on all sorts of stuff. I don't remember. Wait a minute. We had gotten off of that. I don't remember. I've lost track of what I was talking about. Anyway, so yeah. That's my boatloads of rants that I can come up with a couple more, but I don't have any more. At least at this point.
I'm kind of out of stuff as well. Other than next week's show may possibly be another on location show.
Uh-oh. Where will it be on location from?
From wonderful Carbondale, Illinois.
Uh-oh.
The home of Southern Illinois University.
Okay, who are you going to try and nab a certain person there?
Which certain person? Because there's a couple.
The one with the van? Tony.
Okay, now you have me confused.
Tony.
Oh.
Who got a van because he wants to be a van person again.
I could, yeah. But what I'm going to be doing down there is I'm going to be attending my my Army unit's reunion for all of us that went to Iraq together.
Ooh.
It's starting. We did the first one last year, and it was absolutely amazing. It was a great success. A ton of people showed up. Lots and lots and lots of fun was had, and we're going to start doing it every year. So this year will be obviously our second. And the schedule has been drastically improved. I'm told there's a bunch of surprises in store.
Uh-oh, surprises.
So I don't even know if I'm going to be able to. And it might be fun because by the time it comes showtime, I might have imbibed a couple of adult beverages.
Uh-oh.
And there might be some random, rather unwanted cameo appearances.
Uh-oh.
Which that could be fun. So technically it could be a Polygon show because, well, we would have guests.
Yeah, but they'd be unwanted.
Well, I know for sure one would be okay because he appreciates what we do. And the rest will, yeah, no.
Well, I'll say that I'll ask this because this is off topic again. Is there a time, or will there be a time, to do a toast to those that you've lost that are no longer with you, that have either died serving there or died from some circumstances after the fact?
Yes.
Okay, I'd wanted to ask that because I thought, well, no reunion would be complete with that, especially ones with veterans. to talk about the ones that didn't make it. Or
Well, that's the whole point of this.
I would assume it was. I wanted to make sure.
That's kind of the whole point of the reunion, to kind of remember and celebrate our fallen brother. It is being held in his hometown, the town where he was born and raised. We're going to see his grave site, and that's probably more than likely where the toast will happen. Is at his grave
Probably.
site.
That would make more sense.
Yeah. We're doing a big motorcycle ride from where we're staying. And where we're staying actually has a very, very close Eastern Iowa connection.
It's the golf resort, isn't it?
Yes. The people who used to own Woods to Wedges at the corner of Highway 13 and 151 here in Marion have purchased an entire turnkey country club, then shut it down for massive repairs, and are going to be opening it up soon. They're rebuilding the course, and we're going to be among the first people that will actively play the first 9 holes.
You're going to be playing golf?
Yes, believe it or not.
Uh-oh. Somebody's going to be in trouble.
Yeah. I'm bringing lots of extra balls and lots of extra tees because I will lose most of both of those.
Yeah,
games.
you're not going to be doing Jordan Spieth or Dustin Johnson type drives or putts then.
That is an absolute
the fact
guarantee.
that this weekend is the U.S. Open, for those that wouldn't know. That's at Oakmont this year.
Oakmont, good course.
Mind you, we're going off again, that next year's U.S. Open is in Erin Hills in Wisconsin.
Ooh. Actually,
a course they've never been to, mainly because it's a course that just was constructed a couple years ago. It's outside of Milwaukee.
That's interesting. It's interesting you bring up next year because in 2017, the country club that I'm going to be spending time at next year, during the solar eclipse, the big solar eclipse that's already being talked about.
Yeah, in August 21st.
Yes. The point at which the sun becomes completely eclipsed will happen on his 11th green.
On the what?
On his 11th green. Like the physical point in North America.
Oh,
where the sun will be.
I was like, I thought you said something else. I was like, the 11th green of the golf course down in Carbondale. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was like wondering where we were going with this, but I was like, okay, the 11th green.
At the point in North America where the sun will be the most blocked.
For the longest amount of time.
Yeah, for the longest amount of time will be on his 11th green.
Yay.
So he's already preparing the madhouse for that because there's about to be a very, very large influx of astrology nerds.
Don't be surprised if there's already people that haven't booked hotel rooms that far in advance yet.
His cabins, because he has 9 cabins that he rents out, and that's what we will be staying in for next weekend. Very, very nice cabins. For that block of time, they are already completely sold out.
I'm not surprised. I mean, given the fact that, well, the funny thing is going to be is that same area is going to have another eclipse, in 2024?
Yes, and he's already talking about that. He's already, putting that on his radar.
So it's like, oh, we just have these eclipses all the time now.
Yeah.
So
welcome to Keller's Crossing Country Club, home of the North American solar eclipse.
Says at this rate.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone off topic because we were talking about next week, and
this show title will officially be Down the Tubes.
Yeah. Next week's next show will be called something else because it'll probably be called Matthew's Drunk Brigade live at Carbondale, where I'll just say welcome, and then I'll just let Matthew just talk and blab and do stuff, and then I'll cut it off after an hour.
I like that.
And then it's going to end up on YouTube. And then I can use it against Matthew later.
Oh boy.
Or something else.
Or I could just turn the camera off.
No, or mute.
This is true.
So anyway, that might be next week. Stay tuned.
Next week could be very interesting. It could either
or very boring.
As Span says, it could be the very best show ever or the worst show ever.
Yeah, I know, probably. Well, some of the polygons prior to your arrival were way bad, and some were very good. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So those that want to watch, probably Friday night, Saturday night, I don't know, some night, the night that Matt's the drunkest.
That's gonna start probably Friday morning.
Yeah, he'll be drinking a whole bottle of Jack Daniels before noon.
No, I'm not much of a Jack guy.
Yeah, he'll be drinking something.
I'll be drinking the finest scotch available. I'm a scotch guy.
Yeah, he's gonna be completely scotched. He'll think he's butterscotched.
Ha 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 ha.
No, that's
but
anyway, so that's enough of that. We're going off topic and going off. So anyway, so that's next week's show, which will probably be called, we're not sure yet. So
be called something.
Yeah, I'll just call it something number 3.
Hey, there we go.
So that's next week. So for Matt and myself, we'll see you next week, and Matt may see you next week because you might as well just say I'll see you in 2 weeks because you'll probably not remember next week at all.
Oh, I will. It'll just be a matter of if I'm able.
Yeah, so everybody, I'll see you next week maybe in our condition. So bye-bye, everybody.